You've set aside the time to work on one specific project. You're proud of yourself for that, and you should be. You've time blocked it, it's in your calendar, and you're making it happen. You've even chosen one of the time tools I've talked about on this show. You're putting in the work, weaving in your capacity and competence so that when someone receives that project or that report, it fully reflects your effort and your care. Then someone taps you on the shoulder. A doorbell rings, or a bear runs across your front yard and starts eating your pumpkins. Yes, that actually happened to me last year while I was in my home office in a virtual meeting. So what do? How do you reset your focus and get back to work? Well, hello and welcome back to Your Productivity Pulse with Michelle Ocherek-Deo, productivity coach and corporate wellness strategist. With over 32 years of experience behind me, I am so happy to be with you today, sharing solutions and ideas for solving your productivity and time management challenges. Now, back to the bears and finding our way to optimal focal productivity when we get interrupted. How do we stop an interruption from becoming a colossal waste of time? The kind that sends our brains wandering down a path of negative thoughts and lost focus. That sounds bad, doesn't it? But it doesn't have to be the end of the world. The question is, what can we do about it? Well, just the other day, I was working on a project when someone knocked on the door. I ran downstairs, took care of it, and made my way back up, only to find I couldn't slip back into the groove I'd been in before. Instead, my mind jumped to every other unfinished project on my to-do list, pulling me away from the good work I had been doing. The reality was that as I continued to think about those other tasks, the minutes I had intentionally set aside for the project in front of me were quietly slipping away. The next question becomes, how do we re-engage with focal productivity without losing even more valuable minutes? Focal productivity is what we need to lean into, and I'm a true believer that we can get back to it through short 5-minute creative or movement-based activities, or a combination of the two. But today I want to zero in on creativity. After 32 years as a creative arts therapist, I've seen how a short creative reset, something that starts and finishes in 5 minutes or less, can pull you out of a moment of focal deprivation and get you ready to breathe and dive back in. I'm going to save the movement side of this conversation along with a few combination strategies for episode 32. Today is all about what you can do with your hands, your eyes, or a simple square piece of paper in the time it takes your coffee to go from hot to just right. Let me paint you a picture. Someone sits down to write a quarterly report. The deadline is real. The stakes are real. And there is no version of today where she gets to just close the laptop and walk away from it. She gets through the opening summary, and then her mind starts to drift. A comment from a coworker earlier that week replays in her head. Then a worry about whether the report is even on track. Then someone stops by and asks to borrow her stapler. Within a few minutes, she's not writing anymore. She's handing over a stapler, eyeing her messy desk drawer, and thinking she really needs to organize it. And then she finds the missing keys in the file cabinet that everyone was searching for last week. Before she knows it, the cursor has been blinking on the same sentence for 10 minutes. Here's what she does instead of getting up for yet another bathroom break. She pulls out her list of 5-minute refocus activities and decides to try Zen tangling. She grabs a 2x2 sticky note and a black pen, and for 5 minutes she does what's called Zen Doodling or Zen tangling. It's nothing more than drawing small, repetitive patterns, simple shapes, lines, loops, whatever her hand wants to make, with no picture in mind and no skill really required. She's not trying to create anything specific. She's just letting her hand move in a structured, repetitive way while her mind has somewhere safe to land instead of the negative loop it was close to getting stuck in. When the 5 minutes are up, she sets the tangle near her screen and takes a deep breath. She feels refreshed and ready to focus on the report again. The sentence that felt impossible before isn't impossible anymore. The experience created the space for her brain to pivot and refocus, lightening her mood, allowing her to breathe again, and eventually helped her finish the next section of the report. That's the whole point of the 5-minute creative refocusing tools. Zen Doodling doesn't ask you to become a creative genius. It doesn't ask you to leave your desk, and it doesn't pretend the deadline isn't there. It just gives your mind a 5-minute place to land so it can pivot back to the work in front of you. So why does it work? Let's mix in a little research here. A well-known 2009 study out of the University of Plymouth, led by psychologist Jackie Onrad, found that people who doodled while listening to an information-heavy recording actually retained more of what they heard than people who just sat and listened. The doodling kept their minds anchored in the moment instead of drifting into a full daydream. Separately, University of Illinois psychologist Alejandro Larjas has shown that brief mental diversions during long tasks help people sustain focus rather than lose it, because stepping away and coming back keeps your brain from tuning the task out completely. Put those two together and you get exactly what I've seen in 3 decades of practice. A few minutes of creative engagement doesn't pull you away from your work, it resets you so that you can get back into it. Drawing repetitive lines even helps regulate your breathing and gives your brain a quick rest without letting you get distracted. The goal is to re-engage focal productivity with something that helps us reconnect quickly. Zen Doodling isn't the only option though, so let's take a look at a few others just in case it isn't quite your thing. Here are 5-minute creative resets you can pull from your time tool belt the next time you get pulled away from that important task. I've already mentioned Zen tangling, but I'll go through it again just so it gives you an idea of how to use it properly. The how-to is simple. Grab a pen, preferably black, that's my personal preference, and a piece of paper. Standard Zen tangles are done on a 3.5 by 3.5 size inch square, or you can go to smaller 2 by 2 inch squares, the size of a sticky note. Then simply draw repetitive shapes, lines, loops, whatever your hand wants to make. There's no picture in mind and no specific skill required. You're not trying to make art. You're keeping your brain lightly occupied, so whatever disrupted your focal productivity doesn't get to take hold and spiral into a negative loop. All this happens right at your desk without ever having to walk away from the work. And if you're interested, I would just Google Zentangle or Zen Doodling and it'll give you some examples of what you can do on the piece of paper. A second option is to do a quick sketch of whatever is in front of you. Your coffee cup, the view out the window, your own hand. It doesn't need to be good. It just needs to take 5 minutes. A third is to reset a small physical space. Rearrange the pens on your desk or straighten a stack of papers into something that pleases your eye and brings a little more order and less distraction to your space. Fourth, write freely for 5 minutes without stopping, without editing, without any goal for what comes out. Set a timer, put your pen to paper, and let it go until the timer ends. And fifth, I think this is one of my favorites. Make a quick collage or a mood board with whatever is around you. A sticky note, a torn piece of magazine, a photo print, who knows? 5 minutes, no plan, just arranging and no glue required. Snap a picture and then put everything back where it belongs. Now, if you don't see yourself as a creative person, I want to be really clear. None of this requires you to identify yourself as an artist. Before you build any of these into your regular process, run a couple of small trials first. Test 1 or 2 outside of the stressful moments, and then again during an actual moment when you're feeling a bit stuck. Notice what happens when you come back to your work after using one of the creative tools. Once you've done that, you'll have a much better sense of which of these resets actually belongs in your tool belt. This isn't about committing to a habit. It's about trying something new that could genuinely boost your focal productivity. Here's the thing about interruptions and the moments that pull us away from a task. Outside distractions will always find their way in. That's normal. It's inevitable. Even when you've got a big old do not disturb sign on your door, it will still happen. The goal isn't to eliminate distractions entirely. It's to have a set of tools you can reach for with confidence, tools that take less than 5 minutes to reestablish your focus. Now, I know someone out there is going to send me a note about Dr. Gloria Mark and her colleagues at the University of California's Irvine, whose research back in 2008 found it could take up to 23 minutes to fully reestablish optimal focus after a distraction. I hear you, and I believe it. But I also believe we can shorten that re engagement window using the kind of tools we've talked about today. Because if I genuinely had to wait 23 minutes to reset my brain every single time I got distracted or interrupted, I honestly don't think I'd get anything done. And I doubt that many people would either. So many thoughts, so many possibilities. But here's what matters. It's up to us to build our own time tool belt. A vast array of tips and tricks that helps us get started on projects, restart, and sometimes even stop working so we can step into optimal focal productivity no matter the day or the season. In our next episode, we're going to flip to the other half of this equation and talk about movement-based techniques you can add to your time tool belt to help you reset after distraction or significant task interruption. For now, though, let's pick one of those 5 creative resets and give it a try. I love the idea of taking a few minutes to reorganize my desk when my mind gets cluttered and unfocused. Or maybe even this week, if a bear comes back searching for early pumpkins, I'll try the desk collage and drop a picture in my newsletter. And if you're ready to take the next step in your own productivity journey, I welcome you to join my time community at bit.ly/YPP newsletter, or you can find the link in the show notes. Just remember, intention plus accountability equals productivity. Until next time, keep listening to your pulse.